Hey guys, this is Nick with PhoneArena, and I had the chance to spend a couple of days with the new LG G7 ThinQ. This is the company's latest flagship smartphone, and as such, it has more than just all the top specs. It has this new super bright full vision display, a familiar dual camera arrangement, and a super loud speaker at the bottom. And most of all, LG is betting on artificial intelligence to make this phone stand out. But more on that in a bit. So, like it or not, LG went with this controversial Knotch design for the G7. This is where we have the front camera and the earpiece, while on the sides we see notification icons and status information. Personally, the notch didn't bother me at all since it doesn't get in the way of videos and it blends well with running applications, but those who don't like it can make it less of a distraction. If you want to, you can add a background color to the display area on its sides to make it blend more seamlessly with the upper bezel. The phone itself is pretty large. It is even taller than the LG V30, so yes, you can hold it with one hand, but not necessarily use it with comfort. Probably that's why LG added a single-handed mode, which you can access with a swipe on the navigation buttons. There is Gorilla Glass 5 at the front and at the back of the phone, and a metal frame holds it all together, completing the premium package. The G7 comes in several colors, including Raspberry Rose, which is my personal all-time favorite. As expected, the G7 is also water resistant, just like the V30 and the G6 before it. One change that I must point out is that the Fingerprint Scanner at the back does not double as a power button anymore. The power key is now placed on the right side of the phone, and you can double press it to launch the camera at any time. Meanwhile, LG has added a dedicated button for launching the Google Assistant. Press it once, and the assistant appears straight away. What's cooler is that if you hold down the button, as if you were using a walkie-talkie, you can speak out your commands directly without saying OK Google first. The display on the G7 is the largest and the tallest on a G-series phone so far, so even with the notch at the top and the on-screen buttons at the bottom, there is still plenty of room for your apps and for content. Most of the apps that I tried scaled properly, and for the few that didn't, a single button tap was enough to fix the issue. The screen itself is very detailed and colorful, but LG is most proud of the 1000 nits of brightness that it can reach. This helps with outdoor visibility quite a lot. At the same time, LG says that the screen is up to 30% more power efficient than that on the G6. All of this has been achieved by adding a white subpixel to the traditional red, green and blue ones. We have Android 8.0 Oreo running on the LG G7, and it has been heavily customized by LG. But for the most part, the experience is like using a V30 or a G6. For instance, LG software skips the app drawer and instead places your app icons on the home screen. It also adds conveniences like always-on display and the floating bar that we first saw on the LG V30. And when it comes to hardware, no compromises have been made this time. The LG G7 has the latest Snapdragon 845 chip and enough memory on board for most users. Plus, the microSD card slot is also there for those who need it. The camera is very similar to what we had on the LG V30. On the back of the G7, we find two 16-megapixel cameras, one with a regular lens for everyday use, and one with an extra wide lens which now has less distortion around the edges. And at the front is a single 8-megapixel camera. This new camera mode, called AI Cam, takes advantage of artificial intelligence to recognize the subject in the frame. Then it adjusts the camera settings as it sees fit. For example, if you're taking a picture of flowers, you will notice a boost in saturation, and if you're taking a photo of a document, the camera will add sharpness and contrast to make it more legible. This isn't the only application of artificial intelligence in the G7, but it's probably the one that people are going to be most interested in. Aside from that, the G7 also has portrait mode, which is available on both the main and the front cameras. As the name suggests, this feature adds blur to the background of your photos to make your subject stand out better, and you have the freedom to adjust the amount of blur to your taste. Super Bright Mode is another new feature that is meant to be used in low light. It activates automatically when the brightness falls below a certain threshold, and it uses visual information from 4 adjacent pixels. By combining 4 pixels into one, the G7 can produce a brighter picture in low light. But there's a trade-off. This feature cuts image resolution down to 4 megapixels only. Still, there is plenty for photos that end up on social media. I am now going to share some photos and videos taken with the G7, but I don't want to comment on image quality yet. That's because the demo unit that I had wasn't running final software, so image quality may differ on a final G7 unit. LG chose to stick with a single down-firing loudspeaker for the G7, but the speaker setup is quite unconventional. The phone's entire internal volume is used as a resonance chamber to increase the loudness of the sound. And if you place the phone on a flat surface, that surface picks up the vibration from the back of the phone and amplifies the sound even further. The difference is actually quite striking in real life. But if you prefer traditional wired headphones, then the LG G7 still has a headphone jack, powered by the quad DAC that we know from the G6 and the V30. As far as battery life goes, I cannot really share much impressions yet. What I can say is that even though the battery in the G7 is smaller than the ones in the V30 and the G6, the more efficient processor and display may be able to make up for that. So that is the LG G7 in a nutshell. It is shaping up as a really good phone, but not for the feature that LG is promoting the most, artificial intelligence. The benefit of AI just cannot be appreciated instantly, it is not immediately obvious, and a strong selling point really should be. Still, there's a lot to like about the G7, from the super bright display and extra loud speaker to the dual camera arrangement that none of LG's serious competitors can offer. And if the G7 is priced right, then LG might really have a winner on its hands. And this was our quick preview of the LG G7. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you want to learn more about the G7, visit our website phonearena.com.